So we really did do a Cybertruck commercial, and it's mine. Okay, it's not really mine, but we really did do a commercial. And I'm going to show you how we did it. But before that, let's cut to the ad itself. Let's go. Hi, I'm Lionel. I'm a commercial photographer and producer here in Singapore. So how in the world did we get to shoot this beautiful vehicle and to get Aputure to collaborate with us on this project? Long story short, I was working with Tesla Singapore on their media preview of this vehicle here in Singapore. It was at this time I caught up for lunch with two old friends of mine, Kelly and Jialing. They are both from Aputure, and they were showing me this new product that they had, which was the Infinimat. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And in the ad, it was like, you saw this big Infinimat with an electric vehicle inside. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I asked them, if I could get the Cybertruck, would you guys want to do something with me? And of course, they were really excited. They were like, of course, sure. I was like, okay, let me take the phone. I gave a call to Tesla, and I was like, would it be okay if I borrowed your Cybertruck for like a couple of days? You know what they say about never ask, never know. They said yes. I was like, oh my goodness, it's on.
The first meeting, when I listened about it, I was like, that's a cool idea. I can see the passion that drive this all along, and a lot of us who started this industry is based on this passion. When I joined in Aputure, my goal have always been like trying to help, and when this project come in, we'll be like, hey, this might be a door for us that actually like we can reach out to better audience or have more creative projects or even collaboration coming in to let content creators or even like filmmakers or videographer to have a portfolio or to have a place to actually like voice themselves out.
So what now? We've got the main brands involved. What are we gonna do next? What did I just get myself into? So that's when I spoke to a good friend of mine and fellow creative, Celine. And it was through talking to her that I realized we got a rare chance here. Why not we take this chance to showcase the talented creatives here in Singapore? And that's when the project took on a whole new purpose.
I was pressured by Lionel. Okay, but jokes aside, I think Lionel came to me with this mega collaboration idea, and we're just so excited about Tesla, right? And I think it being an electric vehicle, it has a lot of synergy with the things that we do, which is very sustainability based now. So we are very excited by the kind of ideas we can have to create a more sustainable set for Tesla. And we are also very stoked by the opportunity to work with other creatives as well.
And the next person I spoke to was Amy, who is a really good friend of mine and also an awesome creative in floral design.
Lionel from Minto Studio approached me to collaborate together. So the first thing that he told me when he approached me was that, hey, I have this Tesla project, but we don't have any budget. Can you do it? So I'm like, okay, sure. Because it's Tesla.
So the next step was to find the key players to actually shoot the content. Now I'd be lying to say that I didn't want to shoot it myself. After all, I'm a photographer too, right? But there was just so much left to do, from putting the resources together, putting the team together, making all the logistics arrangements. So I knew I had to find someone else. And so I made the easiest call I had to make.
So Lionel from Minto Studios came to us with this opportunity to work together on this co-creation project. For me personally, it was a lifetime opportunity to shoot the iconic Cybertruck, so it was an obvious yes.
So the next person to fill was the director/DOP. And since Aputure was already working very closely with us on this project, I knew they would have the best idea of who could use their lights to create the best image.
So I first got this brief from my connection with Aputure, talking about, hey, you want to shoot the Tesla Cybertruck, it's in Singapore for a very limited amount of time. The passionate filmmaker in me was like, sure, let's do it. The most important keyword, right? Honestly, I didn't hear anything else other than showing the best of creatives in Singapore.
With the main guys in place, the actual concept could really start coming together.
So Singapore has always been on the forefront of many things. The idea here is to have the set design sort of represent the greenery landscape of Singapore. We took inspiration from the Gardens by the Bay, MBS, to have sort of like these floral elements in the shot. And then the Cybertruck here is supposed to symbolize innovation because Tesla has always been known for their innovative products. So these two pieces come together to hint at a tech-ready country.
So when I initially got the brief, when I saw it, the mood and tone was already set. It's going to be futuristic, there's going to be certain colours involved in the final frame with other elements from other collaborators such as Imifleur and Fraction, right? Many people will think of Singapore as a metropolitan city and stuff, but I still want to showcase that little subtle bit of Asian in us. And that's how I incorporated one of the key, well, I'll say feature, which is the wayang play. It's an Indonesian-based light and shadow show. That was one method that I used to tie into the story, to still hint at the Asian origin, but yet still remaining very modernized and very futuristic. I have to think of a way to incorporate what I know best, which is camera moves, camera angles, lighting, right, to sort of still simulate a driving environment, to still sort of be engaging and dynamic in the sense where we don't feel like it's too sterile and too static. So when I lay everything out on a sheet of paper, then I can start to tie in the story timeline, right? So where and when I want to incorporate these elements, how many of it, what's the ratio and percentage of all these elements like in the final film.
The experience working with other creative in this project, with Dylan especially, was because he gave us the mood board, we can visualize, and then he also added in Celine's super tree, so super blooms. So how we work with Celine is that we need to understand how big was the tree, what kind of material she's using for the silver, the reflective sticker, so that we can also incorporate different texture for our arrangement into the whole set, so that it looks more cohesive and it complements the whole set, rather than like one pops out or stand out too much from each other, then it will be like competing against each other.
In case you didn't realize it yet, the Cybertruck can't be driven in Singapore because it's a left-hand drive. So that meant whatever we're going to do, it was going to have to be in the studio.
Typically, when you think of car shoots, you think of locations, you think of coastal highways, you think of roads, right? You think of driving scenes. So how do we do it, right, where the vehicle is not legally allowed to drive on the road?
So initially, we thought about working with a virtual production studio. We even visited some of them here, but with the limited timeline that we had, we pretty much threw that out the window. Just so happened, Aputure works with a lot of studios here in Singapore and had one studio in mind that could fit what we needed, from its sheer size to its production support. And that was the Shooting Gallery Asia. And it was at this point it hit me. We had an unmovable schedule with the Cybertruck. We had almost 40 people in the crew. I needed to feed every single one of them. The department heads needed to pay for the crew. And while we got a really good discount, we still needed to pay for the studio and the camera equipment rental. Remember, we started this project with zero budget. But you know what? It's amazing what can happen when others believe in what you are building. So what we created was worth more than what we realized. People believed in it and came forward to support, from friends to business associates to industry contacts, and even some new faces like gourmets who came to sponsor all our crew for all their meals. And it was because of this support that we were able to make this shoot happen. And I couldn't be more thankful for them. So now we got the idea, the studio, and the budget. All that was left was to shoot.
So keeping in mind what I have for the camera moves, right? I know I needed a very good CA. I know I needed a Ronin operator, a Ronin tech, and I also know I need a very good key grip. Hence why I picked those people in my team. There are a lot of lighting effects that I wanted to achieve in the shoot. There's a lot of programming involved, which is why I got one of the best DMX operators in Singapore, Nikki, shout out, and a good gaffer, right, Elwin, and his team. So they were kindly supported by Aputure to us for manpower wise. Although it's the first time that I worked together with Elwin, right, the communication was very good and we had very good chemistry from the get-go. Looking back in hindsight, the prep days that we were rigging and everything helped to really gel and build the chemistry within inter-departments. I think all these departments gel very well during the prep and during the rigging stage. And then on shoot day, it was very smooth.
And so that wraps a successful shoot. Everyone was shagged out of their minds, but now was on to post-production. to make sure that everyone's hard work shines through the final piece.
I've never done a car commercial. I've done other commercials like skincare, and for skincare it's like every single frame needs to be beautiful. So I was wondering if it's the same for a car. So I took it up. So it was kind of interesting to see the metallic trees and the fake flowers that we don't really see much in film. I mean, as a filmmaker, I like things more natural. So that was quite interesting to see. And then later I realized that, oh, it's done by another person from a different field, different expertise. And that was quite wonderful to see how set design and this kind of film can come together hand in hand to talk about sustainability and textures and metallic surfaces. Yeah. So when I got the shots, I was like, oh, okay, so it was like that. Like, okay, the car is not moving. It's not what I thought, like the Jaguar car moving on the mountain. Nope, not happening. But the car did look like it's moving because he did some camera movement and the light swishing around. Yeah, and then there was a huge focus on the surface, on the texture of the car that I had to implement in the edit also to make it feel like a metallic tank in a sense. That goes with the sound effects that Vance also mentioned that he wanted more of like a dystopian, like new futuristic sound effects. So I added a lot of like whoosh, metallic sounds, not so nature or like even car traffic sound doesn't exist in this film. Yeah, so those decisions were made because of the design of the truck.
So my workflow for this project is pretty much the same as with any kind of commercial. So it starts with me checking in with the director about his vision, like what he wants to achieve visually. Importantly, like what's the kind of story he wants to tell. After we had that discussion and telling me the kind of references that he was drawing from, that's when I could begin prepping a little bit of like the look for what he wanted. In this case, it was interesting because it was a lot of colorful lights at the beginning of the commercial, followed by a segment that was a little bit more clean. And then we show a little bit more of the details of the interiors of the car. And towards the end, that's where a lot of like fast motion, especially if the lights like suggesting that fast motion. When I was working through together with Vance, the director, we managed to come up with we sort of auditioned different kind of lighting effects, and we found one that worked pretty well, which of course I had to adjust from shot to shot. But I was pretty happy with the outcome because it makes a big difference if you see without the lighting effects and with it. And I think I integrated it in such a way that it looks kind of organic. It looks as though, maybe if I use a certain filter on the lens when I'm shooting, that's what it could have looked like.
So you know what really warmed my heart? It was seeing creatives from all backgrounds come together to blend their talents to create something special and unique. And I'm sure they felt the same way too.
For this project, seeing creative like the florists actually use like sustainable materials to act as a flower for our film is something that we don't see often in our professional sets. As well, our director would just like, okay, let's get you a real flower and that's it. It's really nice to see different kind of professionality, their skill sets being implemented on this project.
So I've never worked with a company like Aputure before, and I realized that lighting is very, very important no matter what the set is.
What I realized working on a project like this, it really is about collaborating and helping each other out. I think at the end of the day, this is a collaborative project because it is a passion project that I think we have all invested ourselves into creatively. It's great to see other creatives and entrepreneurs pulling together to basically pull off something like this. And it really can show, what an industry like ours can do. I've been in this industry for probably a decade and a half. And I've met so many talented individuals. I don't think there's a shortage of talented crew, directors, DPs in Singapore. I think it's more of being able to do some of the bigger scale kind of productions, especially the kinds that we see on Netflix, Amazon, that's happening around the region. I feel like we're not really getting that scale of production that is set in Singapore, or primarily set in Singapore and done by mostly Singaporean crew. When I think of like big scale production, I think of, what about like Squid Game? Like, why can't we tell that kind of story? I think we could, I think it's just a matter of the opportunity of being able to tell those kind of stories in Singapore.
I'm very grateful for everyone that are on board this project. I could see that everyone really put in 100% of their hard work. It's very wholesome to see that everyone is coming on board this project together, not for money, but for passion.
I hope we get more opportunities to highlight our local talent. So here's to more projects like this, where we can keep pushing boundaries and telling stories that matter. This is just the beginning.